Today, I want to give you a crash course on all the different tenses we've learned so far. This is not going to be exhaustive. You're still going to need your notes. You're still going to need that the white sheet at the beginning of the year that I gave you, I think it was white, that had all of the verb endings on it. I also have a link on my website under the Spanish 3 tab. But some of you, I think, were hoping that I would give some sort of review of all the 12 tenses, and so let's jump in. So the present tense, this is what you learned in Spanish 1. It took you the whole year. I put the endings up here on the screen. I'm not going to read all of the endings, but at any point, you're of course welcome to pause this and jot it down if you've forgotten something or don't have it in your notes. You will need these for the features and just kind of as we go throughout the year, and especially if you're going on to Honors Spanish 4. So present tense, these are our endings. The irregulars you need to worry about are shoe verbs. We have 4 different kinds of shoe verbs in the present tense: O to UE, E to IE, E to I, and O to U. Another thing to remember is we have a lot of yo irregulars, everything from voy, soy, estoy, to conozco, to all the go verbs, tengo, hago, pongo, digo, traigo, salgo, and a variety of other ones like ver becomes veo, etc. Lots of different kinds. And then we have some verbs in the present tense that are just irregular all the way through. So ir becoming voy, vas, vam, ser becoming soy, eres, s, and a star having accent marks. The yo form changes. There are lots of different irregulars in the present tense. Present progressive, some of you have asked about. Remember, this is my music video, the Trabajando Spanish music video, if you wanted more in-depth information about that, but this is the overview. So present progressive, we take a form of a star, and that is when I say to conjugate like comer in the yo form in present progressive. That yo form is coming from a star. It's not coming from the verb comer. So estoy, estás, está, estamos, estáis, están, and then we add the present participle. You form a participle by dropping the AR, ER, or IR and adding ando or yendo. The only irregulars you have to worry about here are the preterite sandal verbs. So these change E to I, O to U, and I to Y. Things like sirviendo, pidiendo, durmiendo, muriendo, leyendo, cayendo, creyendo, verbs like that. Present subjunctive. This is what we've spent the majority of this semester on. So hopefully you don't need too much review with this. But these are our endings. If you notice, they're the same as the present tense. We've just switched them. So the AR are on the left and the ER and IR are on the right. Different irregulars we have to worry about. Shoe verbs do apply here. Because of present subjunctive, we go to yo, drop the O, add the opposite ending. So shoe verbs apply, irregular yo forms, of course, apply, all the ones I just mentioned. Cargar are verbs apply. So if you're conjugating something like buscar, it's going to have QUE in it in all the forms because it's based on the yo form. And then dishes are our 6 irregulars, which I have listed there. You would just, of course, need to change the endings based on which form it's in. Preterite. This took most of Spanish 2, so this is not an exhaustive study of the preterite right now, but just to jog your memory, it's your flip book that we made earlier this year back in the fall. These are our endings: e aste o, amos astes aron, and e iste io, imos istes ieron. Make sure you remember those accent marks. And then our categories of irregulars, of course, we have cargar zar verbs. Dar, ber, ir, ser, and aser are all irregular in all of their forms. We have a lot of irregular stems. I think you've learned somewhere around 13 of them. Tube, estuve, pood, and those have different endings that go with them. And then sandal verbs, our changes are E to I, O to U, and I to Y. The imperfect tense. Imperfect is a lot more simple. It only has 2 sets of endings and only has 3 irregulars. Remember, our endings are the aba or ia and variations of those, and then our irregulars are iba, ibas, iba, etc. Era, and there changes to veia. There is not that weird, so sometimes I think we forget about it, but it's irregular because it keeps that E instead of dropping it. The future tense. Future tense, we have e, as, a, amos, es, on. We learned this earlier this semester. You should have a long list, there's like 15, maybe 14 or 15 different irregulars in your notes. So I did not put the full list here, but just to give you an idea, remember it's the tendra, saldra, vendra, are, dear, lots of different ones. And these we attach to the end of the infinitive. So you keep the infinitive in place and then you add those onto the end. It's different than pretty much every other tense except the conditional. Speaking of which, the conditional tense is the same endings as ER and IR imperfect verbs, ia, ias, ia, iamos, iais, ion. We attach them to the end of an infinitive, just like the future, and it has the same irregulars. Positive to commands. Positive to commands, we have L, ea in the present tense form. That's how you make it. So it should always end in an E or an A. And our shoe verbs do apply here. And our irregulars are also vendi, sal, as, ten, ve, ponce. That's this form. So positive to command, telling a friend to do something. Telling a friend not to do something, we go to yo, drop the o at the opposite ending. So same idea as subjunctive. These always end in ES or AS, because those are the opposite endings that we're dealing with. And we have a lot of irregulars, but they're basically the same as the subjunctive. So we have shoe verbs that come into play here, because if we're going to yo, a shoe verb may apply there. We have irregular yo forms, of course, because we're going to the yo form, and so it will be based off of that. Kargars forms also apply here, and the dishes verbs. So no des, no vias, no seas, etc. Usted commands are really simple if you've already done a negative to command, because you just drop the S. But if you're forming it from scratch, you go to yo, drop the O at the opposite ending, and then it always ends in either E or A. And same irregulars as negative to commands and subjunctive, so I'm not going to go through all of those. Ustedes commands, if you're forming it from negative to and usted, it's really simple. You just add an N. Otherwise, you go to yo, drop the O, add the opposite ending. It always ends in EN or AN, and irregulars are the same, so I'm not going to go through all of those. Nosotros commands can be a little bit trickier. So with these, we go to yo, we drop the O, we add the opposite ending. They always end in amos or amos. Our irregulars are just a little bit different. We have to worry about IR shoe verbs since it's in nosotros form. Nosotros is outside of the shoe. So sometimes it applies, sometimes it doesn't. It does apply with the IR shoe verbs, so the E to I or O to U verbs. We have irregular yo forms we have to worry about, kargars are, and then of course our dishes verbs. So that is our crash course. If you have specific questions, please ask me or refer to your notes. Good luck with your features today.